I'd like to commence with an acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge the Gadigal and Wongal people of the Eora Nation on whose lands this event is being broadcast today and pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands where you are joining from today. Please feel free to make your own acknowledgement of country in the chat box if you would like to do that. And I'm so excited, guys, to be joined by Rochelle Fernandez today. Rochelle has been an editor of fiction and nonfiction since 2005. She was publisher for the Harper Voyager imprint of HarperCollins, and in 2021, she joined Alex Adsett Literary, where she represents a small group of authors who write everything from memoir to fiction to kids' books. Rochelle is passionate about reading and authors and getting the right book to the right reader. Rochelle, just to start, I'm so curious, what began your career with books?
Just reading, basically. I was a very bookish kid and I am an only child, and books were my friends and I loved them so much. I originally started a creative writing degree at UTS. Before I realized I did not have the discipline to write full time, nor the funds. And so I decided that it was much easier and more enjoyable to tinker with other people's words and to edit. So then I did a postgrad in editing and publishing. I got I'm fast forwarding quite a lot here, but I had a lot of jobs in various small publications and magazines, and eventually landed my dream job as an editor at HarperCollins.
Wow. So you were a publisher for the Harper Voyager imprint of HarperCollins.
I'd started as an editor, and then after I'd been there for a few years, there was a long-serving publisher of Voyager who launched like amazing science fiction and fantasy authors in Australia called Stephanie Smith, and she had been there for about 20 years, and she left, and so there was an opportunity as a publisher of speculative fiction, and I took it, and that's how I became a publisher.
That's so cool. So you transitioned from editing to publishing, and then you transitioned again to a literary agency. How did you find that transition from publishing to working at a literary agency?
Oh, look, I love working as an agent because the freedom that it allows me. Like I wanted to work in publishing because I wanted to help shape the cultural landscape, right? Like that's, it sounds wanky, but that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be part of producing amazing culture. And publishing was wonderful, but I find as an agent, like with publishers, you've got to work with what you're submitted. Whereas as an agent, I can go out and find amazing stories written by underrepresented authors, stories that I may not have found as a publisher. Publishing is a business. And so I found that side of it quite frustrating. So you'd often get told the books that would get attention. You couldn't do a project unless it made money. Well, at least at big commercial publishers. Smaller publishers their remit would be different. With agenting, I get to make people's dreams come true. Lots of people dream of writing a book, and if I love it and I think I can sell it, then that's at least half the battle, because if I can get publishers to believe in someone's writing, then it's in their interest to get it to the right readers. So I feel like I have much more freedom, and it's a much more joyous part of the publishing process.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I'd love to know a bit more about Alex Adsett Literary specifically. What kind of books does Alex Adsett represent, and how many are usually published a year, and kind of what is your role in the team?
So Alex Adsett is a person. She's an agent. She must be well known to all of you, I'm sure. And she started her own. She had worked in publishing for a long time, with contracts and with rights and things like that, both here and in the UK. And she started up her own agency, probably for the same reasons that I wanted to become an agent as well. And she's had the business now for about 12, 13 years. And she focused primarily on genre fiction, so on sci-fi, fantasy, romance, crime. So most literary agents in Australia are focus on kind of commercial fiction or literary fiction, whatever that means to you, but you know what I mean, like the kind of upmarket, high-end, beautiful, tragic stories. Alex wanted to focus on books that were page turners. So she started that specifically for genre authors, and that's been a real unique selling point for her. We still have a focus on genre, but Alex has grown the agency in the last 5 years or so. I came on board and I have a much more commercial sensibility, and I'm also interested in nonfiction. I'm a big reader of nonfiction as well. She brought on Abigail, who is one of the editors that edits predominantly science fiction and fantasy. So she's a speculative specialist. I find that hard to say. And she brought on Lisa Fuller, who is an Aboriginal woman who is also an author herself, who's focusing on children's books. So between us, we represent about 50 authors, so relatively small, but not tiny. About half of those authors write children's books, because recently, or maybe 2 or 3 years ago, Alex acquired all the children's authors from an agent called Brian Cook, who retired, and he was a children's book agent. And so half our list write children's books, and the rest are mixed between genre. I personally have authors who write nonfiction. I have a couple of kids authors. I have a commercial fiction author. So it's a real mixed bag.
Yeah, okay, so that's so interesting. And what is the role of the agent? So what do the agents actually do? And what do they do at the various stages of the publication process as well?
Okay, so there's a lot that agents can do. Firstly, I guess the main role of an agent is to be the author's advocate in all circumstances. So it is to explain to you, firstly, if your work is publishable. It's to hold your hand while you are rewriting, or while you are, it's to submit, it's to have those contacts with publishers and submit your work to publishers, talk you through the publishing process, to explain royalty statements to you if you get to that stage. It's to hold your hand when you get rejections, which inevitably they will come. It's also sometimes to hose you down when you see other authors getting what you think you deserve, and to explain that all authors are different, all publishing houses are different, and just because so-and-so has a tour, it doesn't mean that that's the right way for your book. Does that answer the question a bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's
a little bit of everything. There's not a defined job description, but what agents do offer is links to publishers, honest feedback, and hand-holding throughout the process, and advocating on your behalf. That is, again.
Yeah, and a question that we get quite a lot is people asking us, do I need an agent to get published? What do you think about that question?
In Australia, the answer is no. And Alex and I, when we talk to people, we often say that we talk ourselves out of a job, because we're like, if you have the time and you are that type of person that you can go out and network, the Australian publishing industry is so small that you could go out and make those connections yourself. It's much easier if you have an agent, if you have someone who already knows even half those connections. Um, and an agent will usually get you a better deal. An agent will get you to the front of the slush pile. Like if you're just publishers who aren't accepting unsolicited submissions, they will look at submissions from agents. If they're, and they will often get back to people quicker. When I say quicker, I still mean like within 3 months. That's like nothing in publishing is quick unless it has to be. Now I've forgotten the question. I'm so sorry, Anna. I
No,
told you I was going to
that's
go off on.
okay. I think that you actually answered it really perfectly. And I'm very curious, does the necessity of obtaining an agent change depending on the genre that you write in or the stage of your career that you're in?
I think what I often tell authors to do is to read a lot in their genre. And if you love a particular book and or a particular group of books, and you see that they all have, and your book that you're writing is similar to that, look at the acknowledgements and see who that agent is and then go after them, because chances are if they like and they represent those sorts of books, they will also like and represent yours.
Mm.
um, I am seeing in the chat lots of questions about how to make the connections. So basically just do your homework. So research publishers. If they're a kids publisher, don't be sending them an adult manuscript. If they're find out where the publishers are going to be, find out if they've got things like this where you can meet them and make that connection, and then try and follow up and say, oh, you know, I met you at a Writing New South Wales thing, and that sort of thing. Like those sort of networking opportunities go a long way, and they often happen online, not just in person.
Mm. And how do most books come your way? Like, how do most aspiring writers connect with you in that first instance?
Um, that is a hard question.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have the website, and I am inundated with submissions on the website. I've actually closed myself off now because I just can't look at so many submissions. It makes me anxious. A lot of them come through just connections we've made. Like if you tell anybody that you work in publishing, everybody's got a book for you. So that's how I find authors. Sometimes authors will recommend me or Alex or Abigail to other authors, and so I'm trying to think of an example. Aisha Noon is one of my authors. She got herself a publishing deal for her first book, Untethered, with HQ. And I reached out to her and asked if she wanted representation because I'm particularly interested in South Asian diaspora stories. And at the time, she didn't want an agent, but she did have like a little consultation about what she should expect from the publishing process. And then when she was writing her second book, she reached out again and she was like, oh, actually, I would like an agent now. Are you still interested in being my agent? And so that was kind of, sometimes I will reach out to authors. So I'll look at lists of, you know, top selling fantasy authors. I'll look at awards and things like that, and I'll be like, oh, I wonder if this person has an agent. I will contact them and see. Yeah, so sometimes they're just referrals from people who I know. So they might be like, oh, you know, so-and-so's cousin said that you were an agent. I'm sending you my manuscript. And I'm like, okay. Have you seen what I've represented? I don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, wow. So it's such a varied process in the ways that you receive. It's not
Yes.
one way. Yeah,
Yes.
wow. And are all agents right for all writers? Like, what are some green flags for you that a writer is the right fit for you? And how can writers be
Oh,
looking for an agent that is the right fit for them?
I think it's really important to meet to have a chat. Like after you've queried and the agent has said, yes, I'm interested in
Mm.
representing you. I think it's really important to have a chat over Zoom or in person just to see what they can offer. Mainly because I know I do agenting part-time. I
Mm.
have a day job that actually pays bills because agenting does not. Um, and I can only offer so much, and I know lots of authors need more communication, need more than what I can offer. I wouldn't say that every agent is right for every person or even every book, because the agent has to love your book. Like I have to love your book. I have to believe in what in you and in what you're writing, and I have to believe that there are readers out there more than your friends and family who
Mm.
will buy this book and invest their money in this book. Not only readers, but I have to convince a publishing house to spend money on this book. And so if I don't love it, love it, then I cannot sell it, and I'm not the right agent for you.
Mm.
Um, a red flag of an agent is, I think, someone who asks you to pay. I think there are a lot of people, like, I don't get paid unless I get you a deal. Um, and I think that's quite fair. Um, I think there are agents out there who, well, I don't know actually, but I've heard the stories that there are agents out there who will get you to pay to be on their list, and I don't think that's very ethical.
Mm. And so, in your role as an agent, when you interact with publishers, what are the main things that you know that a publisher will be thinking about when you're kind of speaking about the manuscript that you're representing? Are you just kind of thinking that they're thinking about the quality of a book, or are there other concerns?
Oh no. The quality of the book is important, but they are thinking about whether they can sell this book. And, you know, it comes down to, like, there's a whole bunch of gatekeepers. And so this is, I guess, touching a bit on the publishing process. But when, if just because a publisher loves a book that I send them, it doesn't mean that it's going to get through their acquisitions process. And their acquisitions process is when they send the manuscript, they have to convince their organization to pay money for this book. So often they'll sit there with their marketing person and their sales manager and their publicity manager, and they'll say, okay, why should we give this author an advance? Why should we buy this book? Does it have a strong hook? Does it appeal to a broad range of people? Can we reach that range of people? Can we reach that market? Do they go to bookstores? Do they buy books? Who is buying this book? Who is the target reader? And, you know, can we make this work? Can our print runs be viable? That sort of thing.
Yeah, wow. So there's so much that you're kind of thinking about and trying to balance in
Yes,
those meetings with the publishers. Yeah,
yes.
wow.
Mainly, I'm trying to think about whether booksellers will buy it, because
Mm.
ultimately, if booksellers don't want the books,
Mm.
then there isn't really any other avenues for it. I mean, people can self-publish themselves, and they can hire freelance marketers, and they can hire freelance
Mm.
publicity agents and everything. So, you know, traditional publishing needs to sell it to booksellers and
Mm.
bookshops.
Yeah, that's so, so interesting. I think we're now going to move to discuss pitching to agents, because we've
Yeah.
got Writing New South Wales has got a really exciting event coming up with Alex Adsett Literary, where there will be an opportunity for some writers to pitch to agents from Alex Adsett. And so I want to know about pitching, and I want to know about the pitches that make you feel excited. Are there any examples of pitches that have thrilled you from the beginning to the end?
I don't have any specific examples. I'm sure there have been some. Recently, one of the books that I represent is called After the Siren, and it's a romance. It's a gay romance, male and male. It's set in the world of AFL. And when I received the submission for that, it was it had all the right things. It was well written. It didn't give me a blow by blow account of what happens in the book. It told me why I should read the book. Um, it it was just, it's so subjective. It was what I needed to read at the time. It also, a good pitch will think about their readers and think about who is going to read this book, and people who have thought about the target market, people who have thought about their audience, as well as why they themselves are writing it. Like, why are you writing this book? Is it because you have this story to tell busting out of you? Is it because you have a lot of information and a unique insight? Like, why are you the right person to write this book? People who've also done their homework and said, this is a book like another book, who have thought about some comparison titles, and not just huge blockbuster comparison titles like Harry Potter. Nobody is the next Harry Potter. Everyone will be the next they themselves, So, comparison titles that are realistic and recent. We can't all be where the wild things are. We have to think about what purpose is this book going to serve? Where is it going to sit on the shelf? I think those are the main things. Also, if someone has workshopped their manuscript, that is very appealing to me as well, because it means that they can take feedback. It means that this is not their first draft. Please don't submit a first draft, not to an agent. Not to an agent, not to a publisher, not to anybody. Make sure you've edited it and it's the best that it can possibly be.
And so on the flip side of that, what are the worst things that a writer can do in a pitch? What is some kind of mistakes that you see often that you're like, no, don't do that in a pitch?
This is also very subjective, because I know other agents will have different answers to this. I don't like it when people try and be too funny. I don't like it when they start off like they're doing an ad for their book. And I'm like, you don't have to do a voiceover voice or something like that. You just have to tell me about what your book is about, why you wrote it, why I should read it, why everybody else should read it. I think people try and be very clever. People try and do almost like a Amazing Race John Safran kind of pitch. I don't know if that reference is even relevant anymore, but you know what I mean? Like, they almost try and reverse psych you out. Like, oh, why would you read this? I'm like, I don't know. You're telling me.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. And if we really dig into those kind of specifics of a pitch and what pitches absolutely need to include, what are those essentials that need to be in a pitch?
Comparison titles. For me, those things are: why did you write the book? Why should I read the book? What is this book like? If I liked After the Siren, will I like this? Is it for fans of Heated Rivalry? Is it for fans of, Val McDermid? Is it for fans of Is It Cake? I don't know what type of book would be like Is It Cake, but
Yeah, okay. So comparison titles are so important to pitches in terms of like situating the manuscript.
Yeah, within an audience, yes.
Yeah.
There are many reasons also why an agent won't pick up your work. I only have like limited amount of time that I can spend on agenting, so I don't want to spread myself too thin. I don't want to do a disservice to the authors that I represent. I am talking to publishers all the time, and so I'm hearing them say things like, "Oh, the middle grade market is dropping out. Graphic novels are becoming much more popular," and things like that. And so, even if I love your book, if I know that publishers are not taking middle grade novels at the moment, I probably will say, "Oh, this is not quite right for me right now." That doesn't mean it's not quite right for anybody. Like, you may still find a agent who will find you a deal, but it's probably not something that I could do. So yeah, I guess I'm just saying, like, don't take it personally. If don't take rejection personally.
Mm. No, that's super helpful advice. And you spoke a bit before about the homework that a writer can be doing to prepare their pitch. What should a writer be researching apart from comparison titles and bringing with them to a pitch?
Um, I think it's always helpful to know, um, to have a general understanding of the Australian publishing market and to know, is there a market for your book? Like, are there publishers out there who will publish this type of story?
Mhm. Yeah, okay. So it's understanding kind of the broader landscape as well as just the
Yeah.
manuscript itself. Yeah, that's helpful. And often when discussing pitches, we'll speak about
This is very subjective. Often the hook is something like, A meets B or something like that, right? So often the hook is like, it's like Game of Thrones set in a library, or it's like The Handmaid's Tale meets the Chipmunks, or something like that. So it's like something that's going to make me go, oh, that's a different perspective that I haven't heard before, or the hook is kind of the unique selling point of your book. This is a story about this is a story about Australia's last woman hanged, told from the point of view of the executor, or something like that. Like, why? What is unique about this book?
mm, that's so interesting. And
Or for a kid's book, because I have two small boys, I'm a bit like, well, I have thousands of books about trucks and diggers, and what makes another book about a digger special? Like,
mm,
this is about a digger who wants to be a flower, or this is about a digger who doesn't want to dig anymore, wants to build, or something like that.
mm,
Something unexpected.
yeah, okay. Um, and in a pitch, is a writer just presenting their manuscript, or does it matter how they position themselves as the author as well?
Oh no, I want to know about you as an author too. Especially as an agent, I want to know if we can work together. Uh, what makes you tick? Are you just going to write one off? Are you going to be, do you have a whole series planned out? Uh, do you have connections? Is your brother Leonardo DiCaprio, or are you friends with Reese Witherspoon, that we can get your book on the Reese's book club or something like that? Like, I want to know what your connections are, what your background is, what is informing your writing, basically.
Mm. Yeah, okay. So that matters. It matters kind of what your background is and what you're bringing to the table as well as a
Yeah.
writer. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this will be our last formal question before we get into the Q&A because I've seen a lot of wonderful questions come through. I'm
Yes, me too.
so
I'm just looking at them and I'm like, oh yeah, I should have mentioned this. I should have mentioned that. Yeah.
I'm curious, what is your advice for writers who keep pitching, who keep speaking to agents and to publishers, but they just never hear anything back?
Oh, that is hard. Uh, um, because I am guilty of not getting back to people. I guess my advice would just be to keep trying, try different people, try different ways, keep following up, listen to the feedback if you do get any feedback. listen, try and rework. Um, and yes, just keep at it.
Mm. Yeah, keep at it. It's so hard, but yeah, it's such good
Oh,
advice.
it's really hard, and it's hard for me as well. Like I've had books that I haven't sold that I've absolutely loved, and there comes a point where you're like, oh, I have sent it to every single publisher, and some of them don't get back to me, and it is soul destroying. I get it, I understand, but you believe in it, you dust yourself off, and you try again, you try a different avenue.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's so
A lot of
helpful.
it is luck as well, like timing. I guess I like with After the Siren, it was just as Heated Rivalry was starting to come out, and so there was a lot of interest in that book. But I had I signed up Darcy, the author, just because I love books set in a sports situation. And so I was like, oh, this is for me. And everybody else was like, oh, have you heard about sports romances? And I'm like, have I heard about sports romance? So sometimes it's just luck and timing and things like that.
That's so interesting. Okay, I've got some wonderful questions here. I think the first one is going to come from Natasha and Maeve because they've both asked, are there any particular resources that you recommend to stay on top of market trends, and the Australian publishing space?
There is, of course, the wonderful Writing New South Wales newsletter. There's the newsletters for all the writers' centres around Australia. There's Creative Australia. There is something called Bookseller and Publisher, which everyone in the industry reads, and all the major publishers have subscriptions to it. I think you can get like a free trial of it for 4 weeks or something like that. Otherwise, it's a website. I think it's Bookseller and I don't know, but if you Google Bookseller and Publisher Australia,
Mm.
it will come up, and it's got all the industry news. It's got reviews of books that are coming out, and it's got the deals that are made, things like that. There's fewer and fewer book news, right? Like the book pages in SMH and The Age are syndicated now. There's it's quite depressing. I don't really want to get into it, but there's a lot of industry chatter on the internet. But yes, I would say Bookseller and Publisher is probably your best bet for what is going on in
Mm.
Australian publishing.
Yeah, that's so helpful. I've got another question here from Jacqueline, and they've asked, are there any networking events that you recommend aspiring authors attend to gain that face-to-face exposure with agents?
On our website at Alex Adsett, we have a list of things that we're going to. For example, we're doing this at Writing New South Wales in April. And usually agents will have that. Otherwise, book launches are always good. It's always nice to support authors and to go along with fellow like-minded book people. Pick a book that you like and go to its launch if there's something happening in your area. Can't guarantee that there would be an agent there, but there will at least be book people there, and you can find out about agents and things like that. Otherwise, there's an association of agents in Australia. I'm not actually a part of that, but for various reasons. But they're quite a good source of information. And the ASA, the Australian Society of Authors, also has a lot of really good resources. But yes, by networking events, I mean, it sounds funny, but just basically book festivals and book launches and bookstores and anywhere where there are books.
Just being in the book spaces, really. We've also had several questions about how Australian versus overseas agenting works. Do writers need more than one agent if they want to publish overseas? How does that work? What's the difference?
No. So what happens is that many agents in Australia have either sub-agents overseas or pitch overseas themselves. Go to all the major book festivals and will pitch overseas themselves. So sometimes agents will keep overseas rights and pitch it themselves overseas, or sometimes they will give overseas rights to the publisher when they get you a deal, and then the publisher will then go and sell those rights on to overseas territories. You don't need a US agent. US agents are harder to get than Australian agents, or, you know, agents in the UK elsewhere are much harder to get. They like to have local authors. But, you know, I work with some authors who also have a US agent and who tries to, and that's just a contractual agreement where they try and sell rights in North America and I try and sell rights in ANZ, and hopefully, you know, it's whatever is best for the author. Yeah, it's really hard to get a US agent. So if you get one, good luck. And, or, you know, it's great. It will mean a much bigger market for you.
Mm. Katrina has asked, what makes a good agent? If people are interested in developing a career as an agent, how do you start? Do you need a background in publishing to become an agent? What does that look like?
I think you need contacts as an agent. I don't really know. And I don't know what makes a good agent, because I don't know if I am a good agent. You know, that's a very existential question. I think a good agent is one where you feel supported, you feel like they get back to you with your questions, you feel like they're being honest with you, and you feel like they are trying their best to get you the best possible deal.
Mhm.
To become an agent, I don't think, I mean, you just have to have an ABN and set yourself up and have an author who believes in you and you believe in them, and then you go pitching the book to publishers. I don't know that it's that hard. It would help if you've seen a contract before, like a publishing contract. It would help if you knew what the terms were and what you're looking for. It would help if you were willing to pitch to, if you had contacts in the film and TV industry, to pitch to get deals for TV rights and things like that.
Yeah, that's so helpful. And I've got a question from Rachel here, and Rachel's asking, how likely is a writer to gain an agent after submitting a novel if they have no publication history? So if they haven't been published before, but they've written a really good novel, how likely are they to be published?
Quite likely. Yeah. I mean, they've got as good a chance as anyone, because sometimes publishers like love a debut, because sometimes it's hard if someone hasn't had an impressive sales history but they've been published before. Sometimes that's even worse than if you've never been published before. So, I mean, it's tough, but if the book's really good and if you've got a great team behind you, then you can get published. It does happen.
And Louise has asked about query letters and synopses. What elements are needed to create the best query letter and synopses, and what hooks you in a query letter and synopses? We've talked a little bit about hooks, but what specifically for you?
So in a synopsis, I don't want a blow-by-blow account of exactly what happens. I want the general gist. I want the genre of where, like, what type of book this is. like a synopsis. I also want to know, have you finished the book? Because I often get synopses of books and then I say, okay, I'm interested in this. And then people will say, oh, well, I'll send it to you when I finished writing. Please don't do that. And yeah, so the synopsis should just be the main points of what happens in the novel and how it gets resolved. What is the conflict? What is the character doing? What's the character's motivations? Who is supporting the characters doing this?
Mm.
Or if it's not a character and plot driven novel, what is redemption? What's the takeaway?
Mm. Yeah, that's so helpful. And we've had a few questions about self-published work.
Mm.
Do you represent any books of authors that have been previously self-published?
Um, Not me personally, but definitely Alex Adsett Agency does. I my After the Siren book, Darcy's After the Siren book. Darcy was originally going to self-publish it until, I don't know, I think it was a hairdresser or something said, no, you should send it and try and get traditionally published. So it was almost a self-published book. But yes, we definitely look at self-published authors. And when I was at HarperCollins and I was at Voyager, I published Mitchell Hogan, and he was self-published, very successfully self-published. And he won an Aurealis Award, and I was like, oh, let's see what he's doing. And he ended up being traditionally published by Harper. So yes, I mean, it's good to be self-published. It's just hard to get discovered.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. And Cassandra has asked, how do you see the demand for culturally specific or diaspora narratives evolving, like particularly in Australia, given the rise of translated fiction globally? Like, how does this influence how you scout or prioritize new voices?
I am particularly interested in diaspora stories.
Mm.
I don't know that there is a rise in translated stories, not in traditionally published, traditional publication anyway. I mean, I think, was it 3% of books in Australia are translated from another language? I think the statistic is incredibly low, but I could be wrong, and I could be out of date on that. Do I see it growing, and how do I see it developing? That's a really hard question because I don't know. I'm not a future fortune teller. I wish I knew. I think there's a lot of interest in it because those stories haven't necessarily been told before. So there is a big appetite to know more and to learn more and to read those stories. Having said that, it has traditionally been very hard to get diaspora stories published in Australia. I specifically remember a sales director telling me that they don't know how to reach that market. And I was like, okay, there's a huge community, and I think traditional publishers find it hard to, and booksellers as well, to a certain extent, find it hard to reach people who are not already book buying, book reading people.
Mm. Yeah, that's so interesting. And we have a question from Louise and Maeve, and they've both asked, is Alex Adsett Literary interested in crime literary crossover?
Yes, definitely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Look forward to
We've also got a question from Shayna and a few others. Do you want to receive one book at a time? If a writer's written a series or a few books, do you want to hear about the whole series or just one book and you'll deal with
I
it?
think just one book. It depends. I've had authors who write in different genres, and they tend to say, And I might say, look, I am only interested in your children's books, or I will represent only your children's books because I don't really know about the other books or something, or vice versa. I might say, I will only represent this one book because I love it. The other books, I'm not the right person to represent that book. So I think, again, this comes down to maybe just a chat and say, here is my strongest pitch. Here is my strongest book, the book that I most believe in. Do you want to represent it? If not, I've got 7 others of a different nature. And usually I'll say, okay, well, I'm not interested in this, but yes, send me something else.
And if a writer has written a series, do you want to know that there are other books ready in the series?
Yes, I want to know how many are in the series in total, and I want to know how many have you finished writing in the series. And usually, like, it's very hard now to get multiple book deals. Publishers are very risk averse. So, one or two book deals are pretty standard. No one's going to sign up, I don't think, a 7-book deal. They might, you never know, but we can hope.
Yeah, okay, that's really helpful. We have a question from Sue who's asking, would children's authors need to include a portfolio with their pitch? Or is it okay to pitch just one thing? What is normal for children's book pitches? Are they different from other pitches?
Very different. So, I mean, like a wide range of pitches. So I've had authors pitch me just the manuscript, just the words. I've had authors pitch me the words with illustration direction. I don't represent any author illustrators. So, but if you are an illustrator, if you are an author illustrator, then by all means submit samples of your illustrations as well.
That's really helpful. We have a question from Jordan asking about submitting to literary agents. They're asking, are there particular times of the year that literary agencies tend to be open for submissions?
Not really. I would say don't try and submit just before Christmas because everybody in publishing is on holidays in January. I would also suggest, again, not submitting at the end of November, because that is when everyone who's done National Novel Writing Month has finished a first draft, and everyone is inundated with people who have written a novel in November and not had it edited. So do not submit. So I'd say December and January are out, but otherwise any time is good.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And Rin has asked, I hope I'm saying that name right, when pitching, is there any value in mentioning that the manuscript has undergone a professional assessment?
Yes.
And is it different in pitching to an agent versus pitching to a publisher? Those were probably 2 separate questions, but
I don't think so. I mean, certainly when I was a publisher, I have received the same pitches as when I'm an agent. I think it is worth mentioning if your manuscript has had a professional assessment. I think I want to know all the steps that you've taken up to here. I want to know that you have invested as much in your book as you want me to invest in your book. I want to know what other people in the industry have thought of it. I may not take their suggestions on board. I may not agree with their suggestions, but I think it's good to tell me all the avenues that you've had.
And is that part of the pitch or the query letter? Where would you like to see that included?
I'd put that in the query letter.
Yeah. Isabel has asked a bit about the role of an agent. Do agents suggest edits to a manuscript before it goes to publishers?
Yes, they can if they have time. Because I was an editor at first, I was trying to edit work before it was going out, and that just got too time consuming. Some other agents I know will suggest edits before it goes out. And I know that with After the Siren, I definitely said, I feel like everyone is being too nice to each other. I feel like there needs to be a bit more conflict. Can you write a bit more conflict in there before I send it out? So yes, agents will often suggest edits before it goes to publishers, but I would not suggest edits to someone submitting to me if I haven't signed them up. And I know some agents do that and say, "I'll go away and do this work, and then I'll look at it again." But I don't have that time, but other agents might. And that's why I might not be the right fit for somebody, but another agent might, or a big agency like Curtis Brown, I think is one of the largest agencies in Australia. They might have the resources to be able to give really good feedback without an agreement.
Mm, that's so interesting. And CJ has asked, have you observed any differences? This is again about the overseas market, in any differences in the types of novels that get published in Australia versus overseas? Are they
Oh,
very different
yeah.
markets?
I have just come back from the Creative Australia contingent to the US, and I can tell you that I was so heartened to see so many bookstores and so many thriving bookstores overseas. In the US, it seems that people publish horror, whereas in Australia, that's very much a self-published genre. Like, it's very rare that traditional publishers in Australia would publish horror. I was also very heartened that there is so many overseas. There are a lot of what we would call niche stories. So there are stories about, Pacific Island families. There are stories about I can't think of any examples, like just very specific stories. Whereas in Australia, I do feel like we tend to because we're such a small market, we tend to publish books that will appeal to the broadest range of people. So yeah, we tend to publish books that have broad appeal, whereas I'd say overseas, there are books that have niche appeal.
Yeah, wow. And Michelle has asked about writing in different genres as an author. So, how do you feel about writers that write across lots of different genres or two to three different genres, like historical fiction, then romantasy? Is that a positive thing or could that be negative?
I love it. I mean, if you're a writer, you're a writer, and congratulations to you if you can write in different genres. I mean, it means I have to keep track on my spreadsheets of where things are at, but it's not an issue.
Mm.
Unless maybe I don't know, is the question about whether like their personal brand, and whether their personal brand might be like, if they write really racy, violent stuff, would they still be okay as a kids author? I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of conflict there, but unless there's a specific reason why, yeah, I don't think there's an issue.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And Mary Ellen has asked, does it help your chances of getting representation if you have won awards or been shortlisted and longlisted? Does that help?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
it's definitely worthwhile keeping track of awards.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's also like it's a handy shortcut. I know it's horrible, but it's a handy shortcut if you go, oh, if these judges said that this was good, it must be good.
Mm, no, that's great. That's wonderful. And I think that's all we are going to have time for today. Thank you so much, Rochelle, for being so generous with your answers and giving us so many wonderful insights. We're so grateful that you've joined us
I
today.
hope it was useful. I can just see a couple of other questions that I will quickly answer.
Oh,
Can you have
wonderful.
more than one agent? You can. You can have more than one agent if you are writing in different genres, and you can have one agent representing your kids' books, and you can have one agent representing something else. It will confuse the publishers, but they can cope, I'm sure.
No, that's
And you can definitely have one agent overseas and one agent in Australia.
That's really helpful. Thank you. You've got your eyes on these questions. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us online. And it was great to see so many people online. Thank you for your wonderful questions and your engagement. If you are interested in pitching to Rochelle and to the what other wonderful agents at Alex Adsett Literary, Writing New South Wales is hosting the pitch sessions on the 23rd of April via Zoom. There are very limited spaces available, so make sure you're subscribed to Newsbite to be among the first to submit an EOI when they open on the 7th of April. Thank you again, everyone, and we'll say goodbye for now, and we'll see you at the next First Friday. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me.